All right, we're here. It's that day. Welcome in, Texas Longhorn fans. I'm Gerry Hamilton, joined by CJ Vogel. Bobby will be here in a few minutes. He's having one last EKG before the start of the college football playoffs for Texas. I hope he's okay. We hope he's good here. No, I'm joking, kind of not. But CJ, this feels more like a spring game atmosphere than a college football atmosphere, playoff atmosphere for me. There are not as many people out and about today as there normally are 4 hours before game.
I'm a little surprised. Look, I know it's early. I know we still got, about 4 hours for kickoff. Look, walking through Bevo Boulevard, we've seen 3:30, 2:30 kickoffs earlier this year. It's been a little bit more crowded than that. We've seen a little bit more tents set up for tailgates behind us as well. A little surprising.
Yeah.
I'll say that. And I will say this as well, just being around the city, you can feel the absence of the students.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. There's just not as many people moving around right now, the stadium, as there has been in games past this season. But again, we're sponsored all week by Duck Camp. Thank you very much, Duck Camp. Bobby and I did the Coffee and Football live from there Thursday and Friday. Thank you very much to Duck Camp for sponsoring all of our shows for the college football playoff.
Perfect weather for some Duck Camp.
Perfect weather for Duck Camp. Yeah, it's so cold I had to break out a hoodie, man. I'm not a hoodie guy. I'm the opposite of a hoodie guy. But kind of chilly here. It's up to like 50, 55. But if you're in the shade, it's still cold. And you got that north wind. Bobby's getting his mayo. Bobby will be eating that mayo corn dog. I'm going to force that to happen if Texas wins this game today. All right, CJ, what was your score prediction?
I had 30-17 Texas.
I was 34-20 Texas. So
right in the same range.
Yeah, we're in the same range. I think watching Notre Dame and Indiana last night kind of furthered my opinion on this college football playoff. But what are kind of your thoughts that are prevalent right now heading in this game?
Yeah, having watched that game, look, there's a couple things. Big plays cannot happen if you're Texas defensively, right? Make them earn everything. Notre Dame had several drives where it was 14, 15, 16 plays, methodically moving the ball. That's fine. If you want to do that against the Texas defense, be my guest. But the one play, 98 yards, that's something Texas cannot live with defensively. Also, just making sure that you're living ahead on the chains. Too many times that we see Indiana last night try to run the football first down, some of their pass attempts, losing 2 to 3 to 4 yards, being in those second and longs. So Texas has been hindered last 4 games, essentially, Gerry, whenever you're in second and short, second and 2, second and 3, and you lose 8 yards on plays that aren't sacks. Sacks are going to happen, but you have to limit those self-inflicted 7 or 8 yard losses on whether it be a jet motion, a running play that tries to reverse field. I have to imagine that's going to hinder Texas again at some point, but you got to limit them in the college football playoff in my eyes.
By the way, I'm joking about Bobby Brandon, who he's fine. He had a airport pickup. He's going to be here in a couple of 3 minutes. I was joking that his pregame EKG, just to make sure he's going to be okay. I always joke with Bobby about that. So I think Rob says, is it too loud to hear? Are they having issues with that? I'll put in an earpiece here. But look, my thought is on this game is pretty simple. If Clemson can establish the run game today, that puts a lot of pressure on Cade Klubman. And there was CJ, I'm not sure if it was your stat or somebody else's stat that I saw that yards after catch, Clemson is one of the worst in college football.
Yeah, a lot of air yards.
It's run and catch yards, not catch and run yards. So if that holds true and Texas shuts down the run game, Clemson's really got a lot of pressure to drive long fields and to score the football. On the flip side, I can't get past CJ, and maybe this game blows it out of the water, but the 5 games they played against 7-5 teams or better. They gave up 429 yards per game defensively. Clemson did,
yeah,
and that's against Pitt, Louisville, Georgia, South Carolina, and SMU. While Texas has struggled, I still think Texas is a better offensive team than some of those opponents. So
I agree.
Clemson's got an issue defensively, I think.
Those teams have good they're good teams. They got good playmakers. I don't think they have an offensive line like Texas.
Yeah.
And we got some fireball shooters going on in the back.
Yeah,
Look,
the fireball's out. There you go.
Let's go, Texas.
That's what we like to see. Of course, we talked about the environment. This this tent's got some warmth to it.
Yeah.
We're going after it. But I did want to say, good teams Clemson's faced. I don't think they faced an offensive line with the mass that Texas is bringing, but also just that physicality up front. We'll see, of course, what type of run game Texas gets out of it. And, of course, getting off to a good start has to be a key for Texas.
Yeah, no doubt. A clean start offensively. That means you're going to play a perfect game, but clean start offensively. I've been at. You can't give a team that is us against the world mentality hope early with a turnover, short field. You can't let them build that momentum, else it turns into an NCAA tournament type of game. Y'all take a shot. I am not taking a shot, but there are plenty of shots here. People are taking shots, but it's not going to be me. Quinn has to have better ball placement from C. Gaddis. I agree in the red zone for sure. Health of this Texas team. We were talking to some Clemson fans earlier. They're really worried about the health of their team, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Health of the Texas team. What do we think? Kelvin Banks is going to give it a go.
Yep.
But you don't truly know until somebody falls into the back of your leg or the side of your leg, which will happen to an offensive lineman every game. And how do you react to that? How does the ankle react to that? Isaiah Bond, if he tries to go, we all know he's not going to be the 4.25, 4.28, 4.30 Isaiah Bond. So he's a much different player with an ankle injury. But where do you think we're at with the injuries heading in this game?
Yeah, look, Quinn's going to be healthy. I've been told this is the healthiest that he's been since week 2. So take that for what it's worth. I think we've heard that earlier in the year. And, for better or for worse, we haven't necessarily seen that Quinn again. Kelvin Banks, to your point, he's going to be braced up again, whatever that brace is that's been making the rounds all over social media and broadcasts. He's going to be wearing that again this weekend. He's been getting first-team reps since Monday. He'll be good to go. Isaiah Bond, this will be an interesting one. He's going to suit up, but I don't think you're going to see a lot of him. And, look, Vegas doesn't think you're going to see a lot of him either. You look at the odds or what his over-under is for this game. 25.5 is begging you to take the over because why Vegas always knows something. And what I know as well doesn't lead me to think that we're going to see a lot of number 7 on the offensive side of the ball for the Longhorns this afternoon, which, Gerry, and I'll pitch it to you, if there is no Isaiah Bond on the field, does that just mean Ryan Wingo is going to get a full go? Or are we going to see a little bit more of Silas Bolden perhaps?
I think some more Silas Bolden. Look, I think Ryan Wingo, and I say a bounce-back game because he had the drop last week or against the SEC championship game. So maybe that wasn't the best game for Ryan Wingo. Has he hit a little bit of a freshman wall? Everybody does at some point, but now with this time off, I think he's going to have a bounce-back game. I think Silas Bolden can play a role. I think we're going to see Jaden Blue in the passing game. I think Clemson presents some different opportunities than Georgia did as well.
Agree.
So I think we're going to see the extension of the running back in the passing game again with Jaden Blue here. The other thing I look at in this game is DeAndre Moore, I think, is going to have some favorable matchups in this game as well. Avion Terrell's a really good young corner. Clemson's inexperienced in their secondary there. So I think Texas has a real up. Okay, let's take a look at the line here. There's been some line movement. The total's down, CJ, but the spread is up for Texas, which is interesting how that moved at the same time. And Travis King says, I think Bolden has a bigger game than Wingo. It wouldn't shock me with Silas Bolden in this game. But your thoughts on the line movement?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I'm trying to do the quick math. I believe that'd be, 31-17, 31-18.
Right about our predictions. Yeah.
So interesting in that sense. Maybe, and look, we talked about the health of Clemson. Having seen what Notre Dame was able to do with the time of possession, with the methodical run game, if Clemson can't do that against Texas today with their run game, I think we might be looking at a one-dimensional approach, similarly to how Texas was against Georgia, right?
Yeah.
You can't run the ball. You can't finish drives in the red zone. I think that's going to be something that is going to hinder Clemson. And look, that line's jumped up from about 10.5 to 11.5. Now it's up to 13.5. It's normally a good sign of what's to come if that's the movement before a game.
So people are asking where we're at. We're at the Elliott Electrical tailgate there on kind of tailgate row, as I call it here. So down towards Dean Keaton from Longhorn City Limits, where Pat Green's going to be in concert in an hour and a half, guys, by the way. I expected to see more people just for that today.
Yeah, Gerry was knocking on the tour bus door.
I was trying to see if we get Pat Green on here. Nobody was answering us. Imagine that. He's a Texas Tech guy, though, right? I mean, look, I understand it. But, again, people talking about – somebody mentioned Richmond Randall. That's the other thing in the state of Texas today. Huge high school state championship games. And I do think with Vandergriff and Westlake playing in Dallas, that impacts a little bit of attendance today. How many people there are out and about? I mean, that is, that's two schools with 4,000 students apiece.
100%.
And families and family members that attend Texas, go to Texas games. Oh,
wow. Sorry. I just got sidetracked. SMU just went for it on fourth down, had a wide open touchdown, dropped, turnover on downs, Penn State balls. Look.
Another guy that should have taken a field goal. I mean, how many times are we going to see this? How many times are we going to see this year? Take the points in these games, man.
I totally agree. But I'll ask you that because I mentioned something about Texas and its field goal kicking this week, Gerry. Do you think this is an opportunity for Texas to be maybe a little over-aggressive for Sarkisian? Maybe not an opportunity, but are you expecting that at all? Or, I mean, on the flip side, do you just trust the guy that you've had for the last 2 years?
I think it's win at all costs this week, and that may be a more Arch Manning in the red zone. But to your point, I think there's times in the season where you can push the envelope and go for it on a 4th and 3, a 4th and 4. I think you got to play the points game in the playoffs. I really do. I mean, if you're chasing points in playoff games, that's like unforgivable when you lose to a fan base. And I just think Sark's going to play aggressive but smart. I don't think he's going to be chasing points early in this game. Unless he sees a situation where he said, we can run the ball on these guys, and they can't contain us running the football. Otherwise, I think you're going to see Sark be as conservative as he is in terms of chasing points.
So what you're saying is no 4th and 1 conversion or attempt on your own 19-yard line today?
That would be surprising to me.
I agree.
That'd be surprising to me because, this is a game that, at least early on, until you know how this game's going to go, is a field position game, and you want to trust your defense against the Clemson offense. So somebody's asking about Indiana. Indiana got outmatched. on the line of scrimmage. I think Bobby Burton is joining us here. I'm not sure he's going to be able to hear us, but I think Bobby is now here with us. We'll welcome in Bobby. Bobby, the line's up to 13.5. I'm sure you're excited about that.
I'll tell you what, it is. It's one of those welcome presents. I don't mind it when it's this close to the game time, Gerry. It's the 2 and 3 days before that gives me, as Rod calls it, the bubble guts. Gets my thing charming. But look, Penn State and SMU have started right now. SMU went on a long drive and then a failed 4th down conversion. Kevin Jennings had it easy to run for it on 4th down, had an easy 1st down and decided to pass at the last second for an interception. So now it looks like, Penn State's going to try to run and push it down on SMU. And I don't know if they're going to be able to. We'll see exactly what SMU has here. It was not a good first possession for the Penn State defense. They looked completely discombobulated, covering 4 and 5 wides against the.
Hey, this is a question, Bobby. Jarrett Johnson asked us, anyone off the Indiana team that Texas would want in the portal? That was one of my thoughts in the game. CJ thinks he has somebody. One of my thoughts in that game last night was, how many players from Indiana would actually start at Georgia or Texas? Is the answer one?
I think one. I think there's one guy for sure I would if he entered the portal, I would take a look at, and that's CJ West, the defensive lineman, number 8. If you watch that game for Indiana, he can go. That's an NFL guy in my opinion. Maybe a little undersized, but look, you play the middle of the defensive line as often as he did. He has over 600 snaps this year for Indiana. In the Big Ten, I know they didn't play Murderer's Row out there, but that's still Big Ten football in the middle of the defensive line. He played some good ball last night.
That was so. Think about that. We came up with one guy. That's the issue, and that's going to be the issue for, a Boise State against a Penn State. If Penn State gets there, JT's different for how many guys for Boise State. When you look at these games, truly look at them, how many guys would start for the team they're playing?
That's a good point.
Yeah, but if the Penn State lost, I'm not saying they're targeting anyone from there, but say one of their running backs came available.
Yes.
It just depends on who loses. I mean, Notre Dame or Tennessee or Ohio State would definitely have somebody. It depends what's all available.
Jay Lee, if or once we lose, no hypotheticals. No hypotheticals. No hypotheticals, Jay Lee. We're not entertaining that. No, we will be here plenty when the season comes to an end in January at some point. No hypotheticals. Bobby, we were talking earlier about the health of the Texas team. Well, I was talking to some Clemson fans at this Elliott Electrical Jason Watts' tailgate. Clemson fans are really concerned about the health of their team, and these are people that travel with this team. They're actually concerned about Maffa's health, the running back position. There's been some rumors that Adam Randall's taking snaps as running back, as a second or third running back because of their injuries. He was a wide receiver recruit. Some concerns maybe on the offensive line, defensive line. Guys aren't 100%. Clemson fans are pretty concerned about their health. Now, from the Texas side of things, we know Kelvin Banks, we were talking about before you got on here. Kelvin Banks is going to give it a go. And we think he's fine to play, but until you have somebody fall into your ankle, fall into your leg, how does it react after that? Isaiah Bond's a different story because speed is his game. So CJ is going to be headed into the stadium about 1, and we'll start getting a report then on how guys look in warm-ups. But I think obviously Isaiah Bond is the question mark, but Silas Bolden, Golden, Moore, and Wingo are plenty at receiver in this game, in my opinion.
I think that's the untold question right now. I mean, Clemson, if they want to stop the run, they can commit more guys to the box. But are Wingo, Bolden, Golden, and Bond, are they enough to overcome that? I mean, are they better than the Clemson second? I mean, that's a fair question because look, start 2 weeks ago before Georgia said we didn't win enough one-on-one matchups the first go-round against Georgia. The second go-round, Matthew Golden got open a lot. Silas Bolden had some catches. Isaiah Bond. The wide receivers did their part. DeAndre Moore in particular, right? They did their part. They may have to do their part again today if Texas is going to score a lot of points. That is the real question, right? Is what's the score going to look like? What are the points going to look like? Because I see this line moving. I'd like to get y'all's thoughts on why you think the line is moving, other than Sharks putting a lot of money on Texas right now. Why is the line moving this late in the season?
I think Texas is a healthier team than Clemson. I think that's part of it too. I mean, it's I think Texas is a healthier team overall than Clemson. And I don't know, Bobby. I mean, my thought on this game is, look, anything can happen in these games to a certain extent. The one thing I have a hard time getting past, I told it to CJ, I've said it all week, is that Clemson gave up 429 yards on average defensively against the 5 teams that had a 7-5 record or better. If Texas gets 400 yards of offense today, they're going to score around 30 points in this game. And then it gets down that, can Clemson get to 20 against Texas? I mean, they barely got to 20 against Louisville and Pitt and didn't against South Carolina at home. They did against SMU, but they only had 326 yards. Some of that was self-inflicted by SMU. Clemson hasn't shown to be the team that can just go get 30 points against quality opponents either. So that's what makes this matchup interesting is if you say first 1 to 28 wins, I like Texas chances. And I have them 34-20 in this game. But things line up really well for Texas if they execute at a high level.
Yeah, again, my magic number all week has been 24, right? You get to there, I feel comfortable about Texas's chances to win this football game. And moving forward, we'll get to that later on. But why is the line moving today? Look, Bobby, we talked about it earlier. Watching that game last night, what was Notre Dame so successful at? It was the 3, the 4, the 5-yard gains per play. They had several 14-yard play drives that racked up 80 yards, right? Of course, they had the home run, 98-yard touchdown, but most of their drives were methodical. They took time off the clock. Can Clemson do that to Texas? With the way that their running back health is looking at the moment, I'm leaning no. So I'm thinking it's going to be the chunk plays. but we haven't seen chunk plays against this Texas offense all too much all season. That's, in my mind, at least why I think some of this late movement is coming. Can teams methodically move the ball consistently against their opponents? I think Texas can.
They're going to try, other than isolating some receivers one-on-one, they're going to try to go down the seam to the tight end. That is something that they've done successfully against other teams, and it is an area where, frankly, Texas. Pick six, I think here.
Yeah,
pick six for Penn State.
So yeah,
we just heard game's over behind us.
Game's over behind us. I think SMU is going to go home and go to urgent care because they're all going to be sick too after this game.
Yeah. Well, hey, what I was saying though, as it relates to that, I think that Cade Klubnik will try to loosen up Texas down the seam, and keep those safeties tight, and then try to go to the perimeter later in the game. As far as what CJ said, 24 points. Gerry, you were at 28. Look, I'm at 20.
Yeah.
First team to 20 wins this game, in my opinion. I don't think either offense is playing elite football right now, especially not in the red zone, unless either team has something special for the other one in this game. If Texas breaks out Arch Manning in the red zone, who knows, right? If Clemson, because they have no running backs, all of a sudden goes 5 wides or 10, or
really breaks tendency because Mott was hurt.
Unless something like that happens that the other team's not prepared for, or gives another team a boost, I just think that these two teams are going to score 20. Whoever scores 21st wins the game. That's the most likely outcome for me.
This is a discussion in the chat. I've been following this. The ball must leave Quinn hand in 3 seconds or less. I just wanted to bring that up. I've said the same thing about Texas all year, and I believe this to be the case again. If Texas pass pros well, they handle T.J. Parker, maybe the linebacker blitzes when Clemson dials those up, Texas is going to win. If Sark can get into his the development of the plays in the intermediate game, Texas is going to win in the passing game. But that's kind of been the thing all year, CJ, is can you pass? And there's only been really one team, but can you pass protect long enough to let Sark's plays to develop?
Yep.
Because if he does, if that happens, I think Texas is going to win against a young Clemson secondary, even though Avion Terrell's a really good player.
I agree. And looking at Terrell and his body of work this year, Gerry, he's a handsy defensive back, and we've seen Texas at times maybe not be as physical at the point of attack of a football. I think this is a game where you could maybe draw a penalty on him as well. Bobby, to your point about getting the middle of the field involved, and I'll ask you about this. Derek Carter, as good as he is, he's been attacked in the passing game. He's allowed 5 touchdowns this year per Pro Football Focus. It's the most on the team by 3. Is this a game where you look for maybe the horizontal, maybe just outspeed guys with Jaden Blue over the middle, or a Gunnar Helm? What do you think?
I think I would say that's when you say outspeed guys over the middle. Yes, I thought you were going to talk about the perimeter, because I actually think Clemson may be the best that Texas will have faced outside of Georgia in being able to handle perimeter speed. At least with their frontline guys, I think Clemson can handle that. I think that if you start talking about the intricacies of the passing game, Gunnar Helm not having to be in on pass protection is huge. 2 weeks ago, Sark clearly used Gunnar Helm in pass protection. And it took him out of the route tree way too often. And I felt like that took away one of Quinn Ewers' key targets, right? And so when we talked this week about key pieces to this puzzle, I mean, Gunnar Helm was the one guy that I kept coming up with that has to have a big game. But to do that, it goes back to y'all's point, and the question was, Quinn has to get it out within 3 seconds. Can Texas pass rush or pass protection even hold up that much, in our opinion? You know what I mean? And if they can, that's great. And Texas should feel pretty good about it.
Any chance I can use the table for the
No, go ahead, man. Yeah, so Bobby, I totally agree with that. I want to mention also on recruiting. Anybody that's wondering about recruiting today, CJ and I both walked by the facility. Nothing set up from a recruiting standpoint today right now. So does that mean there couldn't be a portal visitor? We're not saying that. But there is normally a setup if they're expecting recruits. And they obviously know high school recruits are going to be here. But there was no setup this morning by the facility. So is there a possibility somebody's here? We can't rule it out. But definitely, CJ, they're not prepared for anything major today.
Yeah, again, Bobby, we'll talk about the stadium atmosphere as it starts to fill up here as well. But I was a little surprised at how quiet it's been, not just at the facility, but around DKR. Gerry said it felt like a spring game, and I don't think he's too far off in terms of environment. Wow. Of course, still early. We got 3.5 hours before kickoff. But Texas played plenty of 2:30, 3 o'clock kicks this year, and going to get a little bit more crowded then.
Yeah, I have to wonder from a tailgate perspective, how many Westlake fans and Vandergrift fans are also Longhorn fans, and they happen to be up in Dallas today.
And people may have family Christmas events that have been scheduled already. I mean, there's a lot going on that could keep. I was asking the opinion of our friend of the show, Jason Watson. We're thinking, lots of students. We're thinking, 95,000.
Yeah.
Only one Texas home games had less than 100,000. That was Colorado State. CJ said that before the show. So is Texas going to get to 100? Because there's not a lot of Clemson fans here either.
It's hard because you certainly don't make plans for this. It's only 2 weeks old that this plan has been ongoing, right?
Yeah.
And so it's right around the holidays. But I think that those are excuses, in my opinion, if you want to know the truth. I mean, Texas fans better show up today. And they should show up prior to Bevo Boulevard, the whole 9 yards, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at right now. Hey, by the way, guys, punting in these two games has been atrocious. Last night, atrocious for Indiana. Today, it's bad for SMU. SMU maybe just got 25 to 30 yards on a punt.
I love punting the football with my dad, coach. I punted the football a lot. Punting a football in cold,
it's a brick.
That ball does not sound the same coming off your foot. It feels like a brick coming off your foot. Punting game is affected more than kicking game in cold weather, in my opinion, especially the non-pro level, right? The punting game is extremely difficult. By the way, driving in this morning, I don't know what the wind is going to be like for the game, but I was staying south, about 5 miles south of campus the last few days, and there's a pretty decent little wind kicking up at the top of DKR this morning when I was driving into the stadium about 9. I think it's kind of subsided a little bit, but I was kind of wondering about the wind, that north wind in this game, because obviously that affects kicking from the south going north in this game from a field goal and kickoff standpoint. And that's one of the things I'm watching too is you have more opportunities in the return game with a colder football. Like even in this game, Bobby, a little bit. I mean, it's going to be 55, 60 degrees. Is it harder to get the ball to the end zone? Do you have a chance to make a bad decision in the kickoff return game, CJ, into the win?
Look, that's going to be interesting for me is how many kicks does Texas, one, have the opportunity to field, but two, how many opportunities do they actually take out of the end zone? We saw Indiana last night field every kick on about the 6, the 7. Fair caught every one. I think if you're Texas, you don't want to completely take that out of your repertoire, your arsenal, but you got to be smart. You can't be starting drives on the 11-yard line, whether it be because of penalties or a bad return, and that's hindered Texas all too often this season.
Hey, Rob Infield is asking where we are. Hey, Rob, I don't know if you're at the east side of the stadium, up by where Longhorn City Limits is, where Pat Green's going to be in concert. If you're in that area, start walking towards Dean Keaton, and we're down farthest tailgate on the right. If you're walking down that path, there's a U-Haul, a small U-Haul truck on the left. We're almost directly across from that. So if you're walking down that way.
Let's see. What's the score update on the Penn State game, Bobby? Have you seen it?
It's 7-0 right now, guys. 7-0. SMU just punted back late first quarter. And frankly, Penn State looked discombobulated on SMU's first offensive drive. The last two, they look like they've got it under control. They look like they've got it under control. Hey, I want to say thank you to Duck Camp, if y'all don't mind, real quick. They've been sponsoring all of our coverage this college football playoff week. Duck Camp is made for the people that live for the moments out there where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, and football to watch. They like doing all that stuff, so they built a company centered on it, based in Austin, and dedicated to giving people best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel. Duck Camp gear has been tested from the backcountry of Alaska to the Dove Fields of Texas. Also, it's ready to keep you warm, comfortable on these cold winter days. It will stand up to the toughest conditions, but also happily sit down beside a fire and drink a few cold ones with you if you want. Shop hunting gear today at duckcamp.com. We appreciate them supporting on Texas football.
Bobby, we got to address the elephant in the room. We got to talk about it. Quinn Ewers. Let's talk about him. What would be a successful day?
Is Quinn Ewers the elephant, or is Arch Manning's participation with Quinn Ewers the elephant?
Well, my prediction's Arch is throwing a pass in the red zone off the waggle going right in the red zone today. Off the wacko going right. Sark's been setting it up. I'm sticking with it. Now, he may not need it today, but it's coming out in the playoffs. I think 250 yards and 2 touchdowns and 1 interception would be winning football from Quinn today against Clemson.
I think that's fair. I think that, look, the best thing that could happen to Texas is Quinn Ewers doesn't pass the ball more than 30 times.
Yep.
That's the real win, if you want to know the truth. And they run it 45.
Trey Weisner, 100 yards is the key for me in this game. If Trey Weisner gets 100 yards rushing, that takes a lot of pressure off Quinn and Sark.
How many attempts did he have against Georgia in the SEC championship? It was 48, 46?
Yep.
Yeah.
That
27 to 46.
Look, that's not the recipe for success moving forward for Texas.
Yeah.
Not for a guy that puts the ball in trouble, particularly in the red zone. Right? That's the whole piece for me is you can't do that at the level, at the rate he is doing it lately, and think that you're going to be able to do it. I will add this for you guys. I do think we're going to see Arch Manning. I don't know how much we're going to see.
I think it depends on how the game goes, right?
Has Sark been holding this? Has Sark been holding this for this time? And I can't think he has been. Although he did use him a little bit more in Georgia. I mean, y'all think he's holding anything for the playoffs?
Yes, I do.
So you do.
Then why not use it against Georgia? Why not use it there?
That's what I was thinking. I mean, they used two
because that wasn't win or go home.
It wasn't Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think, I think he does have stuff in the play calls for Arch.
You think he still has arrows in the quiver, basically?
Oh, because look, why has it been run left with Arch? That's setting up the waggle to the right in the red zone and the 3-layer throws, which is always where the first throw when they bring him into a game. Yep. I think Sark's got something in the red zone because look, the reality is it's pretty simple. Greg Davis once said you got points per game is the most important stat in college football and in football. And it's coming down to it's a points game now. You have to scrap and claw and do everything you can to come up with one more point on the scoreboard than your opponent.
I gotta say
it's win or go home, and I think he's got stuff. I think he's got arrows in the quiver with Arch, yes, especially in the red zone.
Something's happening here in this Penn State game that I would have never thought. They're going for it on 4th and 13.
They threw a check down.
They're going on 4th and 13 from their own from the SMU 28. Gerry, that's a 45-yard field goal. The weather, kicking the ball in this cold weather, I mean, that's a 45-yard field goal. He would normally kick that. There's no doubt in my mind.
I don't get these guys. I mean,
I'm telling you, he doesn't think he can hit a 45-yarder.
I guess SMU doesn't think they could either. off rip because they had a 39-yarder and went for it.
Yeah.
On the first, I don't.
Yeah.
But maybe that was into the wind. Since I'm doing this, I'm not watching the game. Was that an into the wind?
Good
play?
for underbetters, I'll tell you that.
What's that? What'd you say,
Good for
CJ?
anybody that bet the under.
Yeah, no, this is.
What do you? I talked about it earlier this week and in the week leading up. I do think Texas is very fortunate to be, playing in this game. You're at home, but it's going to be 55. It's going to be 60 degrees. It's going to be, comfortable football weather. It won't be going up north like we've seen with these other playoff games or what we will be seeing tonight as well. And beyond that, you'll be in domes. You'll be inside. The weather won't be a factor for the Longhorns at all, which is huge because I don't think Texas wins a football game if they have to go up north.
Yeah, that's probably fair. That is probably fair.
Penn State's getting to Kevin Jennings. He is under duress every time I look to the right now. So that is a Penn State Abdul Carter can really rush the quarterback.
They're good.
Hey, Bobby, what was your score prediction? You were 20-13?
20-13, Texas. I think I'm right about this. I really do. I think the first team to 20 wins. And that could be good or bad. But it's been the truth for Texas every game this year. I mean, and so I don't see this as any different. First one to 20 wins. That's where it's at right now. And whether it's Trey Wisner that gets it done, or Quinn Ewers, or something that Sark has in store with Arch Manning, we just don't know. Justin Yarbrough says, LFG fellas. That's right, Justin. I completely agree with you. Walter Williams says Wisner 120 yards.
I like it.
5-13. Yep, I do too. I love that look as well as possibility. But we've got to get Klubnik to the ground, not let him beat Texas with his legs, and then cover him. This defense has to show out.
The one thing I look at too, Bobby, in the run game for Texas is some teams have had success against Clemson in outside zone this year, Case. But you know what Georgia did better than anybody else against Texas? They met the puller in the hole and knocked his ass backwards.
Yep.
I'm not sure Clemson can replicate that. I think Texas is going to have more success in the counter game today as well. I just think this sets up for Texas to run the football, especially with the time off. Trey Wisner's going to be fresh as well. Jaden Blue will be as healthy as he's been. I like Texas matchup in the run game against Clemson today. If I'm wrong, I'll come on here and say I was wrong, but they're not going to – I don't think they're going to meet the pullers in the hole like Georgia did with that same type of athletic burst and ferocity and physicality. I look for Texas to have success running the football today, the way they like to run it.
Yep.
That would be
one last big key for me, and Jackson Miles put it out in the chat. No penalties. Texas has been plagued in all their losses by big-time penalties. It's been an issue this year. No hiding it. Can't be 15-yard penalties, 10-yard penalties, racking them up. That's the key for me as well today.
And it's the same Big Ten crew that refereed the Washington game last year and the Michigan game this year. And Texas, through those two games, had 17 penalties. So they're not getting Big 12 refs that don't call holding, at least. I think that's a benefit for Texas. They are getting a Big Ten crew that can be over-efficient, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up here for the pregame show. Thank you to Bobby. Thank you to CJ. CJ and I are going to go get on the move and check everything out around there. CJ's got to get to the stadium. I'm going to go down there where the team gets off the bus, hang out there, say hello to a bunch of parents and younger future players. And Bobby, a fireball shot? You got a fireball shot in you?
No. I'll be doing the Flight by Yingling this afternoon, or having some Flat Creek wine. Go tell those guys down at Flat Creek hello for us, Gerry.
Oh, hold on. We got I don't know. You got something coming to see us over here.
Something? Oh, is it Bevo? Oh, it's a robotic Bevo. Woo! Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. Love it. I wonder if that's a UT engineering school that's doing that. That's really cool.
Kind of freaks
That's cool
me
stuff.
All right, guys, hook 'em, and we'll talk to you guys during the game. Watch with us, myself, Aaron Hogan, Rod, Coach Shipley. After the game, obviously Bobby, Rod, Brian Robeson post game, probably some stuff from CJ as well. And let's hope we're talking about Arizona State.
All right.
And the
Hook 'em,
matchup.
guys.
All right, guys.